It started on a rainy Thursday night in Quahog. The house smelled like burnt meatloaf and spilled beer. Peter Griffin stomped into the kitchen, soaked from the rain, muttering to himself while Lois stood at the counter with her arms crossed. "You forgot Chris at soccer practice for 3 hours," Lois snapped. Peter tossed his keys onto the table. "He's huge, Lois. I figured he'd just eat grass and survive." Chris awkwardly raised his hand from the living room. "I actually did eat grass." The argument spiraled from there. Lois brought up Peter's drinking, the destroyed living room wall from shopping cart jousting, and the fact he'd somehow lost Stewie at a pawn shop for 2 hours. Peter finally exploded. "You think I ruin everything? Maybe I shouldn't even be here." Silence hit the room. Even Brian stopped drinking. Lois looked genuinely hurt. "Maybe you should sleep somewhere else tonight." Peter scoffed and grabbed a blanket from the couch. "Fine." That night, thunder rattled the windows while Peter drifted into sleep on the sofa. The television buzzed quietly with static. Then the dream began. Peter woke up standing in ankle-deep water. The air smelled rotten. Rusted pipes lined endless concrete tunnels underground. Dim yellow lights flickered overhead with a loud electrical hum. Somewhere far away, something wet scraped against the walls. Peter looked around nervously. "Lois?" No answer. Only dripping water. Then he heard humming. A woman's humming. It echoed through the tunnels, slowly getting closer. Peter turned a corner and froze. The thing standing there looked almost human. Almost. It had Lois's red hair hanging in greasy strands across a swollen face. Meg's glasses were fused into raw flesh. Its limbs bent backwards like a spider's. The creature's mouth stretched too wide, exposing rows of crooked teeth, while its eyes twitched independently in different directions. Worst of all, it smiled when it saw him. "Peter," it croaked in 2 overlapping voices. Peter screamed and ran. The creature slammed against the tunnel walls, chasing him on all 4s with horrible cracking noises. Its fingers scraped sparks off the concrete. The humming turned into distorted laughter. Peter slipped through dark corridors, while pipes burst around him. At one point, he looked back and saw the thing crawling upside down along the ceiling. "Nope, nope, nope, nope!" The tunnel suddenly ended at a glowing white light. Peter lunged toward it. The creature grabbed his ankle just before he escaped. Then he woke up screaming on the couch. Sweat drenched his clothes. The next morning, Lois ignored him completely, and the nightmares kept coming. Night 2. Peter wandered through a frozen version of Spooner Street, where everyone had featureless faces. A tall shadow creature stood motionless at the end of the road, until every streetlight shattered simultaneously. Night 4. He was trapped inside the brewery at the Pawtucket Patriot Ale Factory, while skinless mascots chased him through rivers of black liquid. Night 7. Peter found himself in the Griffin house, except every room was slightly wrong. Doors led nowhere. Family photos showed empty eye sockets. Stewie whispered from inside the walls, "Daddy shouldn't have said that to Mommy." Sometimes Peter escaped. Sometimes he didn't. In one nightmare, a massive creature made entirely of wedding rings dragged him underwater while Lois's voice repeated, "You break what you love." Every morning, Peter woke up more exhausted. His skin turned pale. His eyes drooped. He started jumping at shadows. Even Quagmire noticed, which is saying something, because Quagmire's moral compass is basically roadkill. At the Drunken Clam, Peter finally broke down. "I keep having these messed up dreams," he muttered over a beer. "Monsters, demons, creepy Lois things." Quagmire blinked. "Giggity, but also yikes." Cleveland frowned. "Man, that ain't normal." Joe slowly set down his drink, actually serious for once. "They're called failed marriage dreams." The bar went quiet. Peter laughed nervously. "That sounds fake." Joe shook his head. "No. My grandfather used to talk about them. Said some people get them after saying things they can't take back to someone they love." Peter swallowed hard. Joe continued. "The dreams feed on guilt. Every night they get worse. Different forms, different monsters. The mind punishing itself over and over until you fix what caused it." Quagmire leaned back. "So basically marriage with extra steps." Joe ignored him. "If you don't resolve it," Joe said quietly, "eventually you stop waking up." Peter laughed again, but weaker this time. "Okay, that's stupid." But that night came Nightmare 12. Peter woke inside a gigantic, empty church underground. Endless pews stretched into darkness while distorted wedding music played backwards. At the altar stood the creature from the first nightmare, only now it was larger. Its body twisted unnaturally, covered in stitched-together wedding dresses and tangled hair. Meg's voice cried from somewhere inside it, while Lois's voice whispered over top, "You meant it." The creature lunged. Peter ran through collapsing aisles while monstrous hands burst from beneath the floorboards trying to grab him. The church cracked apart around him. Finally, Peter fell to his knees. "I didn't mean it!" he screamed. Everything stopped. The creature froze. Peter started crying. "I'm sorry, Lois." The monster stared at him silently. Then it slowly stepped backward into darkness and disappeared. Peter woke up immediately. Morning sunlight spilled through the windows. For the first time in nearly 2 weeks, the house felt warm. Peter walked quietly into the kitchen where Lois sat drinking coffee. He looked awful. Lois noticed instantly. "Peter?" Peter rubbed his eyes. "I've been having these horrible dreams every night." Lois sighed. "Peter." "No, listen." His voice cracked slightly. "I said awful things to you, and I know I screw up constantly, but I don't want you thinking I don't love you." The room stayed silent for a moment. Then Lois softened. "You idiot," she said quietly. Peter smiled weakly. "Yeah." She hugged him, and that night, for the first time since the argument, Peter slept peacefully. No tunnels, no demons, no creatures with Meg's glasses fused into their skull. Just silence. Honestly, the rarest fantasy element in the entire Family Guy universe.